Hello, this is Peter Collins with another sales training module for the professional salesperson. And in this module, I've titled this, Let's Have a Closer Look at Some of the Other Things a Professional Salesperson Does. And although it may be hard to fathom that a salesperson goes to such a different extent in the way that they do things and approach things, most regular salespeople would never encounter this. And this is why I've provided this particular information. But more on that straight after this break. Welcome back. Yes, the biggest challenge for most salespeople is when they've set up a presentation is the way their imagination can start to operate. Because that imagination can bring up all sorts of thoughts, and once they're in the mind, some will definitely take over the thinking process. And that's why we need to have a carefully structured plan and checklist to ensure things run smoothly. But remember, the presentation process you're about to encounter is the one that top sales professionals would work on. And in the process, they would avoid any one of the opening phrases lesser prepared salespeople may go on with. And that will differentiate the professional seller from any of the competitors who may think a good opening line is, "So, what exactly do you do here?" My suggestion is use that line at your peril. If you want to turn off a prospect very early in the presentation, ask them exactly what they do here. They've had that question asked of them many times, and they're probably sick of answering it. So avoid that, and avoid it at all cost. Now, what I want to share with you is so obvious, it may sound corny to the average salesperson. They probably wouldn't even dream of using it. But professionals do not play protocol with whatever they do, and they don't worry about how obvious it may sound to others because it's important to the prospect. Now, stating the obvious, a well-prepared salesperson would begin by stating something as obvious as this. It could be one or two or three different phrases you may choose. And I've chosen this in preparing for this meeting, or when preparing for this meeting, because this meeting is important to both of us, I've prepared this. Now, whichever phrase you use doesn't matter. It's an attention grabber that's important, and once you have used that phrase, you should quickly refer to the two or three things that you did prepare, because this kind of introduction is designed to immediately capture the attention of the person across the desk. If it's in a group presentation, or if the salesperson wants to make a stronger first impression, they may have prepared a slide entitled Pre-Meeting Preparation with, say, 7 bullet points of the things a salesperson has discovered in preparing for the meeting. Now, why 7? It's a magic number. For some reason, 7 works better than most other combinations. The second most important combination is 3. Remember, there are 7 days of the week. In the Bible, the number 7 relates to prosperity and to growth. So don't try and give them more than 7 ways that you have prepared for this meeting. Just leave it at the 7 bullet points and allow that situation to be open for further discussion. Now, the professional knows that being prepared beyond what is expected of them will automatically make you, the presenter, seem more interested in them and more able to meet their requirements as a company. And it's also important that the salesperson makes the following 3 statements at some point during the presentation. And the order that they're presented in is not important, but it is important to bring these up during the presentation. The first is, I'm glad to be here. The second is, you know what I'm talking about. And then smile. And now, this should always be brought up. Somewhere in the presentation you'll say, I love what I'm doing. Smile and just put your head down and start writing. Now, whatever you do, you can't fake it because faking it won't work. The statements have to be genuine and have to sound genuine too. And the best way to do that is to rehearse things beforehand. And the professional knows this, and that's why their smile, their posture, their tone of voice, and the depth of their conviction allows the prospect to see how different they are to other salespeople. And that is something that is really important both to you, the salesperson, and also to the prospect. The prospect doesn't like working with mediocre people, and you should never ever present that type of image. In other words, in my opinion, the professional wears his or her professionalism and commands respect accordingly. They actually carry their professionalism the same way a top CEO would carry a briefcase. It should also be remembered that a standard meeting checklist is a relatively quick and systematic way to prepare for any meeting. And it should be prepared to accomplish 2 things. The first is to help you have a deeper conversation with the prospect, and the second is it will keep you from asking questions to available answers that are already there elsewhere. So be careful when you ask questions that you're not asking questions that answers are readily available to. And I mean that by suggesting that you should also look at the company's website to provide the following things. The first is the mission statement. Now, every corporate website will generally have a mission statement, and from that mission statement, you can align your offer with their mission, or your presentation with their mission, or the conversations you have with the executives with their mission. The second thing that you'll see on a professional website is generally the president's or the CEO's letter. And I would look at that and I would read it more than once, maybe 2 or 3 times, because it's what the boss thinks. And what the boss thinks in that company, everybody thinks is important, including the boss. The third is, look at all of the products and services they provide, because that will give you multiple areas that you can actually discuss, or if you need to confirm something, you just trot out the product or service that you have investigated. Now, the fourth is an important one as well, and I would look at their recent press releases, because if you read these carefully, you can ask questions like, Is this new acquisition going smoothly, or are there some issues with it? Now, the fifth is Google News. And I find Google News really interesting because most times Google News can give you something that isn't a press release, but really important information or background information about the company. So I would read the lead paragraphs of any news stories pertaining to that company for the past 30 to 90 days. And when you do that, you will usually find one or two gems that will help you with your presentation. Now, the sixth is something that so many salespeople will never even think of doing. And my suggestion is that you should check or confirm the stock price of any publicly traded company. And don't be afraid to mention at any time something like this. In preparation for this meeting, I Googled you and your company and obtained the information I needed for today. And let me ask if that information is correct. By doing something like that and by saying something like that, you'll generally catch them off guard. And when this happens, they will generally answer as honestly as they possibly can. And the reason for that is they would not have had too much preparation for that type of question. Now, the more you share of what you've done behind the scenes, the more professional you will appear to those that you are presenting to. And in today's selling market, homework is not only vital, it is crucial if you want to be set apart from the others selling within your industry. And being set apart, as I've said many times, will elevate you in the eyes of the prospect. And the more the prospect elevates you, the more they will trust you. And trust is a commodity that you just cannot buy. You have to earn trust.